Hi, I'm Katya Isabella and welcome to my studio. I'm doing something that I've never done before, so bear with me if it's really awkward and uncomfortable, but let's see how it goes. So what I wanted to do was just create a video showing what I've been working on for the last week. Last week I started something called the weekly challenge game, weekly composition challenge. It doesn't really matter what it's called. Basically, it is a way for me to get myself composing again by creating a bunch of ideas, topics, challenges that I can compose to every week, and getting myself out of my comfort zone. Last week I pulled out compose for 5 to 10 instruments that you would not normally write for, and that's really out of my comfort zone. Wasn't expecting to pull that out for the first one, but I rose up to the challenge and I started finding instruments that would be really cool, got some suggestions from you guys, and started looking up just instruments that sound really good together, instruments that would be really different, interesting together, just playing around. After listening to many different instruments and combinations of instruments, I decided I wanted to work with handpan drum. It's a beautiful instrument that I've never worked with before and didn't know much about, still don't know a lot about. And then looking at people playing the handpan drum, I saw this group playing the handpan drum and the didgeridoo and fell in love. Definitely worth taking a look at. Their music is quite cool, very interesting. So I opened up a project and loaded in the instruments. I'm working with East-West samples. And for my handpan drum, I went to Storm Drum 2 Ethnic Metals and got a hang drum, another name for the handpan drum. And I tried out the hang drum Zen, but that's not really a sample I'm actually going to work with. What I realized is that there aren't many notes available. So that's when I started doing research into the handpan drum and found out that there are many different types of handpan drums, and some have more notes, some have fewer notes. The fewest notes on a handpan drum is 9, as far as I know, and that is what I'm working with here, is a 9-note handpan drum. Each model is set to a different scale. So the East-West model or sample is set to the most common scale, which is D Celtic, or basically D minor. At the bottom here we've got our D, which is on a C on the keyboard, and that's the first challenge to overcome when working with a sample. And then at the bottom we've got the soft attacks, top we've got harder attacks. It's a really interesting sample to work with and learn how to work with. Of course, learning the instrument and learning the sample are two different things. Knowing how the instrument works then allows you to play with the sample and learn how the sample works so that you can work with the sample, not against the sample, and create some really cool sounds. With our didgeridoo, I realized that East-West's samples have their own articulations throughout the note. And therefore creating rhythms is actually quite difficult, or trying to create a rhythm or different articulations with your note is quite difficult to have a good sound and not have it sound really fake, really sampled, work against the sample. And I'll play it for you here. So that's what I put down just to listen to the samples, see what I've got to work with. You can hear even in the single note, there are breaths, the articulation changes, and there's a lot going on just with a single note. So to manipulate the notes themselves, a little bit trickier. What I found seems to sound quite nice is to play around with the expression and use that to create a little bit of rhythmic variation. So that is quite interesting and it's fun to work with. I'm still learning the ropes, I'm still figuring things out, and I know it is week 2 and not week 1 anymore, so I'm running behind. But I think the beauty of this challenge is the fact that I get to learn new things, find out new things, and step out of my comfort zone. So I'm not limiting myself to the time frames necessarily. I am going to be starting week 2's challenge. And revealing what week 2's challenge is probably tomorrow. Yes, I know tomorrow's Thursday. We're well through this week already. But bear with me, time is not my greatest strength. Time management, at least. But I just wanted to show some really interesting things that I found working with these samples and with this challenge this week. And yeah,